Okay, here's a demo of the SNK Pedals ThVnderCr4cker. It is a hybrid take on an ampeg V4 circuit. So it's running 3 preamp tubes into a Class D power amp. I had a bunch of questions after the last video I did of people wanting to see a couple different things or hear it different ways. So I'm going to put together a little video of that. So I'm running a Gibson 50s Les Paul Gold Top in drop B into a bunch of pedals on the ground, into the SNK ThVnderCr4cker, into this ampeg 412. I'm going to start with all the controls on noon, the volume, which would be the pre-gain on this, low, and the master at a quarter of the way up with no presence and resonance controls rolled in either. So this is it clean. That's with the volume pre-gain at 0.5, rolling that pre-gain up a quarter of the way. So a ton of sustain already, and the volume taper is really nice on it. If I want to keep it this clean, I'm going to roll it up to about halfway up on the master. That's just a perfectly usable sound for edge of breakup. It reminds me of an old V4 as it is, with just everything at noon. I'm going to roll the master down to where it was, so a quarter of the way up, and I'm going to roll the pre-gain up and roll through that while playing a couple of riffs. So I'm going to play it where it's at now, run a loop, and then turn it for you. So leaving it where everything is at noon. The master is now at maybe 3.5 out of 10. I'm going to run the same loop. I'm going to change each of the frequency controls, bass, mid, and treble. Then I'll turn the mid frequency toggle, the ultra high toggle, and the sensitivity toggle. Right now I have it at the -6 pad, right, just to kind of keep it a little cleaner, but it really opens up, just keeping it wide open. So I'm going to use that same loop and do the same thing for you. Now I'll do it with the sensitivity, and I'll roll in the presence and resonance controls as well with the same loop. So with the presence and resonance controls, to me, it eliminates the need for the ultra high bass cut, because you could roll in this presence while keeping the low end, as opposed to the normal V4 high cut that happens with the V4 low cut that happens with the ultra high switch here. So I'm going to set this to my preferred settings, which is bass, mid, and treble at 6 out of 10. The volume just shy of halfway. The -6 dB pad, ultra high off frequency switch for the mid all the way to the left. A volume at now maybe 4 out of 10 on the master. This is running into 8 ohms right now, so it's at the 175 watt setting. And I'm going to use some pedals. I will start with the clean tone, then I'll play the ThVnderCr4cker Blumes with a B, and then I'll throw in some reverb from a Blue Sky. I'll throw in some delay from a Strymon Volante, so you can hear how this reacts with pedals and stacking pedals as well. And now I'll run it with the pre-volume back down to maybe 1.5 or 2, and I'll use the same reverb and delay settings so you can hear the trails a little better. And now I'll show the same settings, but rolling down the volume knob with reverb and delay. So some people want to see it a little cleaner and see how it reacts like a tube amp. It really does have that pre-tube compression when rolling down the volume knob to get it clean, but still keep it spongy, unlike some of these Class D solid state heads that just remain super clean and don't really get that pick attack compression. So I'll play full volume for a second, roll back the volume knob, and then turn on reverb and delay. Roll all the way up. The compression scales really well with the master and the pre on this. I'm going to keep the master at half right now, and I'll roll the pre volume almost all the way up so you can really see. It sounds, to my ears, indecipherable from my V4, fresh from a tech. Feeling really happy about this. so it's in the 175 watt version. Really impressed with how it takes pedals. I haven't tried it direct out. I use it more for a live setting, so I'm not really using it to a DAW or workstation or cab sim yet, but I might. I haven't really used too much of the effects loop yet, other than choosing the send and the line out to send to a power amp to turn this into essentially having two of these, which worked well from both jacks. So I'm really pleased with that. The fan is super quiet, not warm at all. I think Scott did a great job with these. I've been waiting a long time to see something that's like this, that emulates a V4 circuit. It just eats the pedals the same way the high power tube amps that I do, that I have do. Yeah, great job. Hope you enjoyed. Thanks.